Thank you, everyone, for coming to our partnerships and sponsorship panel. We're just going to record it today for future graduate students and our other graduate students to share so people can watch on our YouTube channel. And then if you share anything particularly inspirational, they'll probably get thrown up on our social media. So look forward to that. Claire will be asking questions with me today. And we have all five Buckeyes, four from our graduate program and one from our undergraduate program. So thank you all for making the time. And so we can just jump right in. If everybody wants to go around and kind of share just a brief overview of their educational and professional experience thus far in their career, that'd be great. If anybody wants to jump in and start.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Hey guys, I'm Shin Nagahama. I did my undergraduate and graduate work at The Ohio State University, both in sport management. Did a couple pro sports internships at the Blue Jackets and also DC United whilst I was still in school. And then first job out of college, got a role in corporate partnerships on the sales side for the Tennessee Titans, and I am about to enter my third season with them.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon. I did undergrad at Ohio State and graduated my degree in economics. And then I worked for the Blue Jackets, moved down to South Florida to work at an agency doing sports marketing for Dunkin' Donuts. From there, moved back up to Columbus to work for IMG, working with all their Midwest properties. And then made the move up to Minnesota, where I've been a partnership activation manager here, working with the Timberwolves, Lynx, and now T-Wolves Gaming and NBA 2K. This is my fourth season with the Wolves, and then completed my master's through Ohio University. So unfortunately not OSU for that one, but still very much a Buckeye at heart.
So I can jump in. My name's Mike Mays with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I did my undergrad with at Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and then I went to Ohio State for grad school in sport management. After I graduated, I worked for a minor league baseball team in Cleveland, the Lake Erie Crushers, for almost 4 years on the partnership side of things. And then I moved over to the Cavs a little over 2 years ago. And Shannon, I'm good friends with Libby Cruz on your partnership team.
Yep.
We meet on a monthly basis, pass ideas and, leads back and forth to each other. So tell her I say hello.
I will.
I'll jump in next. Koerber, two-time graduate from Ohio State. 16 was undergraduate and then did grad year right after that. In 17, worked in the athletic department as an intern in a variety of roles in event management, fundraising, and then strategic partnerships with Diana Sabo, who actually just got a new job at Big Ten, which is fantastic. And then shared many projects and classes with Carly Sullivan here on the panel as well. And then after graduation, was fortunate to get a job in DC at a boutique sports marketing consulting firm that specializes in naming rights and major level sales, and have been there since for the past going on 4 years. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Just me. Hi, everyone. I'm Carly. I did my undergrad at Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio. And then I did the sports management grad program at Ohio State. Graduated in 2017 with Gordy. My first job out of school was in Cincinnati at a company called Pro Camps. I worked in partnerships for a company that did youth camps for pro athletes. And then I was there for about a year. My current role, I work in sponsorship activation at ESPN. My team focuses mostly on college football properties, so college football playoff and college game day. Also some college basketball game day stuff. Part of my team works on ESPYs and the other part works on X Games. And then I manage sponsorships for ESPNW, which is our female-driven platform at ESPN. So I've been there for about 2.5 years, and I'm normally based in New York, but since last March, I've been home at Ohio, or in Ohio. So
awesome! It's great to see you guys all doing great things. And then, can everybody just go around and say what kind of drew you initially to the partnerships or sponsorship space in the first place?
I guess we'll just stick in the same order. I started out as an intern like my sophomore year of college. I interned at this company called Shootaway. They make basketball equipment. And at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And they just happened to be in my hometown. I was like, hey, I'm a sport industry major. I just need an internship. Can you help me out? And he asked me, what do I want to do? And I kind of just said marketing as a buzzword. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did marketing for a little bit under him during my summer internship. And I liked it a little bit, but he was just observing me and, just talking to me every single day. And then he actually asked me if I'd ever heard of corporate partnerships before. And I was like, not really. Why do you ask? And he said, I've kind of been observing you over the last couple of weeks, seeing you do different tasks. And I think your communication skills and everything that you offer, I think you might be better suited for corporate partnerships. And, at the time I was young, 19 years old, didn't really know much. So this guy who runs this company told me that I'd be better suited off in corporate partnerships. I wasn't going to say no. But fortunately for me, I fell in love with the department, just the different things about it, just the entrepreneurship behind corporate partnerships, building your own portfolios, creating a vision beforehand, all that kind of stuff that intertwines with corporate partnerships. I ended up loving it. So it just happened to fall on the shoulders of a guy that I used to intern back in the day. But here I am many years later. So it ended up working out.
Yes, I am next. So going into my senior year at Ohio State, I had originally been pre-law. That was the path I was going to go on. And then I did a study abroad before my senior year with a law focus. And I was like, this is not what I want to do with my life, which luckily I realized before graduating and going to law school. So I kind of had that, okay, well, what now, what next kind of moment. Fortunately, at the time, I was working with Ohio State football recruits. I was a university ambassador for undergrad tour guide and also working with game day with the athletic hosting. So I was doing that and then also interning with Big Ten Network. But it was really an internship with the Blue Jackets. Doing corporate development was my aha moment where even as an intern, they had me really just in the thick of everything. They had me in all their brainstorming meetings. They really had me involved in everything. And as I was in those brainstorming meetings, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Just that creative problem solving and just understanding brands. And as we're sitting there and just having, the whole creative process from the very beginning to seeing actual in-game activations happening at the Jackets, that's kind of when I'm like, yes, this is the career path I want to go on. So it took me a few years to get to be doing what I'm doing now at the Wolves and Lynx. But definitely started at an early time with the internship kind of keeping me on that path to where I am now.
Yeah, and for me, I was always interested in undergrad and grad school on the business side of sports. And I knew I might have to start. I didn't want to do ticket sales necessarily. It wasn't for me, but I knew I had to start there most likely. So I actually got a job with the minor league baseball team I started with in ticket sales. And then about 6 months later, a position opened in partnerships. And I went to the president at the time and told him I wanted that position. And it worked out for the better. And that's been my career for the last 6 or 7 years now. Just being, I don't really see myself as a salesperson necessarily, more of a relationship builder and a creative problem solver for some of the companies that we are partners with. But to be able to build relationships and solve problems for these companies is kind of what I really like about the partnerships business.
Yeah, I would echo everything that everyone said thus far. It started as an internship for me in fundraising. Got to see a lot of kind of proposals, and that's development, right, and kind of personal giving and state. But when I transitioned into that role with strategic partnerships with Diana Sabo, it just really opened my eyes to the kind of the intersection of business and sport. And I got to be exposed to a lot of the major deals, like the Gatorade deal, the Nike deal, the ones that you all see across campus at Ohio State. That was just really kind of eye-opening and super cool, frankly, as a college student. And I just pursued it and loved, like Shin said, kind of the creativity aspect of developing a marketing partnership and kind of solving problems for brands and kind of aligning the vision and objectives and everything that goes into it.
So I was actually initially not super drawn to the corporate partnerships side of the business. I had worked in event management similar to Gordy at Ohio State, I thought I was on the path to work in events or operations. My first job, or when I applied to my internship at Pro Camps, which then eventually led to a full-time job, I actually applied for an operations position, but they were like, this position has actually been filled, but we really like you. We want you to be part of the team, but we have this position open in partnership marketing. So I was a little hesitant at first, but then eventually took that position and pursued that path, and really just really enjoyed it, in the creativity aspect that everyone kind of touched upon. Really, I was drawn to that. So I guess my biggest advice there is don't really limit yourself in your prospects coming out of school, and just get as much experience in different aspects of the business that you can, because that turned out to be the best decision that I ever made, and then eventually led to my position currently at ESPN. So.
Thank you for all speaking so much. Now we're going to change the questions where we'll just have specific people talk about specific things. There's lots of good questions that we had from students that we came up with. And I'm sure that some of these will be just long answers, very involved stuff. So the first one, this is going to be for Mike and Gordy. The big topic now, and I think generally, is like pandemic, and kind of how has your position changed since the pandemic. I think it's interesting now to look back on the past year and sort of to speak to how that was. So I guess Mike first.
Sure. Yeah, it's obviously, as everyone will say, it's been an interesting year in sports and entertainment. That's for sure. But on the NBA level, everyone's kind of aware when the NBA stopped playing games on March 11th last year, and then went to the bubble in the summer and was able to complete a successful NBA playoffs. The Cavs, unfortunately, did not make the bubble, so that gave us kind of a longer runway to prepare for this season. But on the partnership side of things, quick background. So our partnership department, like other teams, is split into two sub-departments. We have partnership development, which is what I'm in, and that's the people who go out and sell new partnerships. And then we have the partnership marketing team, what we call the PMs. And after we sell a partnership, we pass it along to the PM, and the PM becomes the day-to-day activation on the account. And then when it's time to renew or upsell, they're in charge of that. So it allows us on the partnership development side to focus on new business. So on the PM side of things, the pandemic was very busy and challenging for them, because we had a lot of, all of our partners missed out on value because of the games we missed last season. Substitute benefits was the main buzzword this summer that the PMs were focused on. Because let's say we had a partner who has $1 million annual partnership, and they might have missed out on about $250,000 worth of value from this past season. So we had to find ways, looking to best case scenario, not refund the partner, find ways to find substitute value for them. So whether that's an additional community initiative, more social campaigns, more TV visible signage this season, maybe adding a year on the back end of their deal. The partnership marketers were kind of in charge of substitute benefits during the pandemic. And then on the new business side, we actually stopped selling for about 3 months. We stopped reaching out to companies just because the climate wasn't right for that. And we just focused a lot on internal, campaigns, sales training, planning for next season. And then probably in July, mid-July, definitely by August, we started reaching out again to companies about, having discussions about partnerships. And as the fall went on, companies began to open back up to be interested in, partnership and business talks again. There's obviously a bunch of, smaller local companies that might not have a marketing budget anymore, or a large marketing budget. But for the most part, the major companies are still marketing, or still, business as usual. And maybe their thoughts have just changed on, maybe they're focusing partnerships on more digital aspects or community-based aspects instead of just straight up branding or, large scale signage. So that's kind of what we've been focused on, is, how can we get some of these new partners, community-based and digital-based partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it, Mike. I think the word that, came across our desk that, we answered a ton was make good, right? Like, hey, like, what's the what's the value? How can we substitute that value, whether it's a digital integration or tarp signage, things like that. It's similar to Mike and the Cavs too. There was a point in time when we stopped selling a little bit just because, internally we just didn't know if it was appropriate to be reaching out. Tons of people were hurting and still are for that matter. And so we would do a lot of preparation and planning and just kind of check-ins, right? It was a great opportunity for us to just touch base and say, hey, we're going to weather the storm together. We're here every step of the way. But also on a new business development front, we were actively selling a naming rights deal for a collegiate property. And so as Mike can attest, I'm sure he got a lot of, hey, we're tightening our belts right now. Budgets are this, we're going to have to punt and see what 2021 or 2022 looks like. So it was a unique year. I think, so I think unprecedented has been the buzzword of quarantine and COVID, but it really has been. But an opportunity for us to like Mike said too, be better and kind of, whether it's sales training and just kind of hone our crafts too along the way. But it's been an interesting year to say the least.
It's interesting to hear just like the perspectives of, it's kind of thinking eternal, like the ebb and flow of how you do stuff. Normally there's an ebb and flow to a year. We kind of having to pivot and adapt, I'm sure was different. So speaking of pivoting and adapting, kind of outside of pandemic stuff, let's forget about that. For Shannon and Shin, how does your job fluctuate as your team is performing well or performing poorly? What challenges do you face during the valleys? So let's go with Shannon first.
We have not had a great season, in case anyone's been following the NBA. It definitely makes it difficult to kind of keep those engaging points. I think it's always finding that bright spot in amongst all the everything going on right now. Whether it's like Anthony Edwards, who's been playing absolutely insane for a rookie, and just being like, hey, did you see this highlight? Or even we're really big with our relationship management plan. So it's Women's History Month right now. So tomorrow we're going to be sending out Grit by Angela Duckworth and just a personalized note to all of our partners. So when we can't have basketball to lean on to say, hey, this is a really cool thing, we lean on the relationships, we lean on what we can share that we're excited for. Like, what are we doing in the community that we're really proud of? What are we doing? What's our social media team doing that's new and innovative? So it's kind of when you're in those down spots and you can't rely on, oh, the team's playing well, or, oh, hey, playoffs are around the corner. You lean on where the bright spots are. And the good thing about having two different teams, the Lynx season is right around the corner, and we've made a lot of really incredible moves in the off season. So we have a lot of partners who work with both the Wolves and the Lynx. So right now we're kind of shifting the focusing, like, okay, this season hasn't gone as we hoped for the Wolves, but hey, Lynx is right around the corner. A lot of really exciting things there. They have won a ton of championships. They're a phenomenal team. So let's get excited and ready to throw our support to them.
Yeah, I think Shannon made a lot of good points there. Something that's a niche part that I guess I'll touch into as well. Luckily for myself, each season that I've been with the Titans, we've had good years. So I haven't really had to go through any of the bad points yet. But something that's interesting that comes up is when we have long-term relationships with certain partners. Sometimes, there are selling opportunities where we can get more money somewhere else, but it's the relationships that we've built throughout the 20 plus years that the Titans have been alive that we have to take into consideration. I bring that up to Shannon's point. We haven't always been AFC South champions. We haven't always gone to AFC championships. There have been seasons where we've won 2 games. My director and VP definitely harp on those points a lot. Hospital category is one that kind of comes to mind a lot for us. And there have been several opportunities for us as Tennessee does really well in the healthcare realm. But our main hospital partner, essentially St. Thomas, have been with us for many, many years. Not only when we've been AFC South champions, but also when we've been only winning 2 games per season. So just to harp on the point of, again, speaking to the relationships that have been built over the years and, people that have stuck with us, not only when we've been good, but also when we've been bad as well. So kind of have to take that into consideration when you consider partnerships and entering new partnerships as well.
And so the next one's for Carly and Mike. If there's one thing you wish you could have done differently in college that you think could have prepared you more for your career, or an opportunity you could have either taken or created, what would that have been?
I think I touched on this a little bit, but I would just kind of echo again what I said earlier. Definitely don't limit yourself. I was really narrow focused in college of, I want to work in events, I want to work in operations, and kind of hadn't really explored the partnership marketing and the sponsorship side of things. But once I had those opportunities, I really fell in love with the side of the business and kind of have shaped my career around that. I would just say definitely take advantage of all the opportunities that you have at Ohio State and you have in Columbus. You're in the most successful athletic department in the country. That's awesome. Like the most successful recreation department in the country. Like definitely don't take advantage of that. Or I'm sorry, definitely don't take that for granted. Events are coming to Columbus too. The women's Final Four was there several years ago. I would truly just get involved in any way that you can. Events, sports teams, different entities, they're always looking for volunteers. So I guess my biggest regret was not taking more advantage of every opportunity that was afforded to me at Ohio State.
Yeah, and similar to what Carly said, I think not getting comfortable is important in terms of getting as many different experiences and meeting as many different people as possible. So maybe you've had an internship one summer and they want you back the next summer. If you really liked it and you maybe want to work for them in the future, sure, it might be a good opportunity to stay there, but you also might be better served if you get an internship elsewhere, because you'll get a different experience and you'll meet a bunch of new people. I went to undergrad at the University of Cincinnati, and that year I was graduating, they were starting a graduate program for sport management at Cincinnati. And I loved my time there as an undergrad, but I just thought I'd better served elsewhere because I'd meet 25 new people, 5 new professors, and just get different experiences. I tried to have a different sports internship every year I was in college. And I just think, diversifying your portfolio of networking and experiences is important.
And then the next one is for Shannon and Gordy. What do you think is one of the most important soft skills to be successful in the partnership space?
Shannon, you want to go first?
I would say just being flexible. I think more often than not, I'm surprised when everything goes right, especially this past year. So I think it's just being flexible, staying positive, and staying calm. I think things go wrong, and instead of being like, well, whose fault is it? Instead, I'm like, let's get a solution. And I even joke like with partners, like I always have like so this went wrong. It's already being fixed by this way, and here's what we're going to do moving forward. So it's kind of that 3-prong approach. So I think just kind of taking that deep breath, knowing your resources, knowing who to talk to, knowing who has experience in something similar. And if it's, we're currently going through something that I've never experienced, so reaching out to my senior director saying like, hey, in my 10 years in sports, I've never seen this. Like, what do you think? And having that dialogue, and again, kind of having a plan of attack and just going forward and not letting it phase you. I think it's like they always say like ducks, like they're smooth on the water, but underneath the water, the feet are going like this. I think that's activation. Like you have a smile on your face, everything's going great, we're in good shape, but in your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, I have this, and this I need to think of, and we got to change this and take care of that. So be flexible, stay calm, stay positive, and just keep moving forward.
That's a really good one. I would say yes, absolutely. That being nimble is really important. But also, I think like communication. It's so simple, right? Communication and collaboration, kind of cross-functionally, not only with your direct, your boss, your VP, principal, but also across the organization too. All of us work not only just in partnership sales to make a partnership come to life. You got to work with Shannon. You got to work with creative, you got to work with events folks. And so I think just being able to communicate clearly and collaborate and be a team player, I feel like it's pretty bare bones in elementary, but really important to any role, and specifically partnership too.
I was listening so much, I forgot I had to also be engaged in moderating. So I think this next question, it's gonna be for Carly and Shin. I think kind of touches on different stuff that you've said at different points, but it's also just helpful to contextualize within the specific thing I'm about to say, which is, do you have any advice for students trying to navigate, trying to get experience with the limited jobs available post-pandemic, and or choose whatever you want to say. Do you have any tips for making intentional connections to build your network?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. I think one thing that a lot of us didn't have as much of a resource back in the day was the use of LinkedIn. Now you have the ability to look at every single pro sports, college sports team, and see who works at that position, works in the departments that you want to work at. You have the ability to try and make a connection with them, send them a note, let them know that you're interested in a position, and just try and get 15 minutes of their time to make the connection, do an introduction. And I think that's valuable, right? I think we can all harp to the point that creating your network and making it as wide as possible is one of the most important things that you can do in this industry, to try to get your foot in the door, especially. One of the main tips that I would give, now I feel like most students have that down now. They know how to use LinkedIn. They know that platform's there. But really personalizing the message, like I mentioned, you have the ability to add a note when you're trying to make that connection, and personalizing it, and not doing a simple copy and paste. For me personally, like, I can tell right away if someone does a copy and paste message and it's pretty generic. I prefer it to be pretty personalized, and that they show some effort. Maybe went through my LinkedIn, see what I do to make that connection. And every single time that I do see that effort, I'm always willing to give 15 to 30 minutes of my time to give advice, give any tips. So those would be the two major ones for me. Use LinkedIn as much as possible, and make your notes as personalized as possible.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be, don't get discouraged. I know everyone wants to have their dream job coming out of school. We have been through undergrad, we've been through grad school. We're like, you know what, I'm ready to start working. But I think just not getting discouraged. And I probably sent my resume to 100 different positions. And typically, to be completely honest, it doesn't look like what you thought it would look like when you're starting out your career. But that's the great thing about sports is there's so many different opportunities, different than even 5 or 10 years ago. Like, there's so many different facets of the business, and how things are continually evolving and changing. I guess to answer the second question, when you're in your internships and your entry-level roles, if there's someone that you work with that might not necessarily be in your department, or that you work closely alongside with day in and day out, but you do interact with them, I would just kind of have a conversation and sit down and say, what is it exactly that you do in your day-to-day, and it just gives you a much more wide, diverse kind of understanding of all the different cogs in a department, or in a company. And that's always been really helpful for me, is how can I make your job easier? How can we work together? So yeah.
Thank you. I think it's really helpful to hear all this advice, and kind of, especially as we're on the cusp of the future. I think we're halfway through this semester right now, or something, maybe a little bit more. Next question is for everyone. And sort of as you want to speak about this, but what do you think is kind of the most stressful part of your job, or like one very stressful thing that you have to deal with?
I can start. For my end, I'd say it is being patient. The partnerships process is very long, especially when you're talking larger dollars, larger deals, working with national or international companies. When I was in the ticket sale side of things, if you went a couple days without making a ticket sale, you'd start to get like a little anxious, and what am I doing wrong? But you can be in a partnership conversation for months and years with an organization or a company. So just staying patient. Every time you think we use like the yard lines for analogies, and every time we think we're on the 2-yard line or we're going into score, it gets pushed back to the 10-yard line because someone else needs an approval, or there's another negotiation process, or something else came up. So just being patient, being organized, and not getting frustrated, because when you do get a deal across the goal line, it is, an awesome feeling, and it totally is worth it. But it sometimes is a very long process, and I can't tell you the amount of times I've complained to my wife at the dinner table that I was supposed to have the written confirmation, for a deal on Thursday, and now it's next Wednesday, and I still don't have it yet. But staying patient and just knowing, it's all things come in due time.
I'll jump in here because I'm in a little bit of a similar spot. Our as someone who sells naming rights for stadiums and arenas, kind of as a day-to-day basis, it's a long game. We're trying to find one major partner for the property, and patience is key. I would also say prioritization is something that I've developed and kind of learned over time to just, obviously we're trying to get out a lot of volume and, strategically and align with companies that could be suitable naming rights partners, but there's a lot of volume and kind of vetting and getting through who's real and who's not. And so kind of knowing when to cut bait and move on. And I think prioritization is a big part of our job too, is knowing, trying to figure out what's real and what's not. So prioritization and patience, I think, are key.
Yeah, I think Gordy and Mike hit the nail on the head, especially on the sales side. Patience is key. I guess, once the sale is done, something that can be stressful is, making sure that you do give the return on investment that company does pay for, the partner does pay for, right? They're spending hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of dollars on these partnerships, hoping to get the value that, we promise them. So over a long partnership's time, making sure that we do deliver everything that we promised can be difficult at certain moments. And sometimes conversations get a little testy at times, but making sure that partner is happy, making sure that relationship stays smooth can be stressful at times, but obviously the most important part of what we do.
I would say definitely prioritizing and being able to adapt, as everyone kind of touched on originally. At least in my role, certain times in the year are definitely a lot more busy and stressful than others. Working in college football, if there's something that I can get ahead of in August and I can be prepared come December, just to make my life easier and to make the lives of my team members easier, definitely take advantage of that. So I would just echo what everyone else said and definitely, prioritize and, being able to adapt.
I'd agree. I think especially in activation, you're kind of a middleman internally and externally. Like today, for example, they wanted a social post to go out as soon as possible, and I'm following up with a partner, making sure a new updated creative, logo approval, all of that, just kind of being that, making sure I'm communicating with the partner, making sure to tell our social team, like, okay, you need to hold, give me 20 minutes. I'm going to text, I'm going to do this. And it's that constant kind of back and forth of things coming at you. So again, kind of prioritizing as things are coming to you internally and then externally from the partners I work with, just kind of knowing where everything kind of flows in the queue and what's being held up, what needs answers and what we need to do to get things moving and what things can be pushed kind of towards the bottom of the pile of stuff to get through. And then just, again, what's the most time sensitive.
Yeah, and so this one's open-ended too, so feel free to chime in if anything comes to mind. But if anybody has a particular memory or experience or activation that was kind of a peak of their career and they want to share what that was like.
I'll jump in, and it's kind of funny. It was a total pinch me moment, as it was a 24, 25-year-old who just started, and it wasn't even in my domain. So there's a whole other side of our agency that's a consulting division, and they, you know, help brands strategically navigate through, you know, sports and kind of manage their portfolios and investments, et cetera, et cetera. And one of our clients is a partner of the NFL, and as a result, does a ton of hospitality at Super Bowl and a lot of the tentpole events across, you know, throughout the calendar. And I remember I was asked if I had wanted to kind of help out and volunteer basically at the Super Bowl in Minnesota. And, you know, it arguably was the hardest week of my life, you know, waking up super early, staying up really late. I was going back to my event management days at Ohio State, really. But it was so great and such a cool experience just being there, right? Like there's an energy and just fun being in that site city. And it wasn't guaranteed that we were going to go to the game at all. And I remember Sunday morning, we all got a text saying that our client had a few extra tickets and, you know, a couple of hospitality badges. And I remember just like texting my friends, calling my folks, you know, exhausted, you know, on Super Bowl Sunday, being like, I'm going to be there. And I remember it was just so cool. You know, I have pictures, videos, Snapchats, you name it, you know, inside US Bank Stadium and having a little moment of gratitude, you know, watching the Eagles and the Pats. And it was really cool.
Not to mention that was a good game, you got to see.
Great game.
Yeah, obviously being in sports, one of the perks is you do get to go to a lot of cool events and, you know, meet a lot of cool people. I would say the highlight that sticks out to me, you know, I grew up in Cleveland. I was a big Cleveland Cavaliers fan. So I think being able to see my first, you know, partnership sale for the Cavs activated, and, you know, the signage could be seen on TV and the social post going out from, you know, at Cavs account, be able to kind of show my parents or my wife, you know, that activation with my first sale was probably the highlight that sticks out for me the most.
What was it?
Well, there's two. I'll give you the one story actually. Libby might know this company too, Shannon, but we actually got a referral from a online auction company who started a deal with the New Orleans Pelicans first, and then came over to the Cavs, and they kind of ran our online memorabilia auction, and then, you know, had signage, had social posts, paid for some, you know, partnership for some branding and marketing, and I think that was the first one that got up on TV, and, you know, I was taking screenshots of the TV and sending to my parents and things like that. So just a memory, you know, you always remember.
I think for me, I work with Hy-Vee's, our official grocery, floral and pharmacy partner. They are just absolutely wonderful to work with in the activation world, is giving them ideas and then being like, yeah, let's do it. So I think as far as working with partners, it's kind of a dream situation with them. But in their contract, they had community event, like a very kind of vague verbiage in the contract. So really kind of left it open to us to design something ourselves. So we came up with a program where we had Hy-Vee customers donating to Matter, which is an organization up here, meal and snack packs. And then we did an event at a local organization where we had 60 elementary kids come out, coaches, players, mascots from both teams. And over the last 2 years, we've donated almost 10,000 meals and snack packs to the Minnesota community. And especially this past summer, with everything that's happened in Minneapolis, it's been food insecurity at an all-time high. So being able to do that again and just making that impact. So I think that community aspect of it, and back the first year when we were able to do the event, seeing the kids, seeing it all come to life, seeing it all saying like, hey, this started from literally just a group of us sitting at a table saying, hey, could we? So I think that's kind of the highlight moment for me so far.
One of my biggest highlight moments every year, just, you know, working on college football playoff, is getting to be on the sideline during the national championship game. Like there's truly no, like there's truly nothing like that. Unfortunately, didn't really work out in the Buckeyes' favor this past year, but I manage the Gatorade partnership as the official of the CFP. So, you know, just getting to see that come to life every year, and it's literally 365 days of blood, sweat, and tears, and then getting to see it culminate during the big game is always awesome. And just kind of, I guess, since the host city changes every year, just, you know, working in Miami, and then this year working in Indianapolis, and just kind of seeing the different cogs in the machine that that make that activation come to life on the sideline is always an awesome experience.
Yeah, I'll finish off here. Something that you never really want to go through, but last year we had a huge tornado come through Nashville at the beginning of 2020. Obviously, again, something that you don't really ever want to go through, but something that was really cool that came out of it was, you know, we all came together as a community to help clean the streets, help people who were homeless at that point, and luckily for us, all 90 plus partners wanted to be a part of it, and you know, they all donated in some way, shape, or form, whether it was food, supplies, money, and it was just super cool to see. You know, usually it's our job to bring them value and help them out any way, shape, or form. The roles are kind of reversed in this way, and it was just really cool to see, you know, the Titans family come together and for our partners to be a part of it. So for me, that'd be my favorite moment.
Awesome. And then we'll wrap up on this question. It's open to everyone, but I feel like Gordy's going to have a particularly good answer for this. Where do you see the future of sports partnerships or sponsorships going? And is there any trends that you've noticed that we should be on the lookout for people interested in going into the field?
Yeah, I can kick it off, Mike. I'm sure you got some insight. Everyone on this panel, I'm sure, does. But I think I think you'll continue to see a lot of digital engagement and social engagement. I think gone are the days of just a logo slap or an ego play where, you know, a CEO wants to see his company's logo in the arena. I think, you know, more and more justification and ROI is needed. And I think it's going to continue to get, you know, the marketers that we're working with, that we're all working with, are just really strategic and smart folks. And I think really integrated partnerships will be, you'll continue to see. In terms of trends or products or categories, I think you've seen a lot of like recovery and kind of performance, whether it's the hyper ices of the world, you know, this therapy guns, technology, fintech is a big one, the SoFis of the world. And then, you know, I also think that the food delivery, the DoorDashes and things like that will always be around alongside gambling, you know, and gaming. That's just totally blowing up. But yeah, no, it's incredible because, you know, 5 years ago, a lot of these categories and companies weren't on the map. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2026 and 2031 and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I agree with Gordy on the digital front, for sure. Coming up with, you know, our team is creating new digital assets for us to present to partners because they want more and more digital. In terms of trends, yeah, right now the three hot trends, you know, for the Cleveland Cavaliers and in Ohio is the pending sports betting legalization. Sports betting is huge for us right now. We actually just announced our first free-to-play sports betting partner until legalization happens at the Cavs like 2 weeks ago. And then cryptocurrency is big right now, and NFTs, you know, NBA Top Shot, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about. And some of you might have saw the news that the Miami Heat are close to an arena deal with a crypto. I'm assuming that was you selling that, Gordy? That one, you? And then the third one being CBD is an interesting category that we're keeping our eye on right now. So sports betting, crypto, and CBD are interesting trends that I'll, you know, 5 years from now, it'll be interesting to see where all of them lie.
Something I think that's been interesting, especially being up here in Minneapolis, is just the conversations we've been having with partners about social justice, racial inequities, and how they can take a stance in those. I'm so proud of the public stances the Timberwolves and Lynx have made over, especially the last year. So I think that's something in earlier years of me working in sports, that's never really conversations we had. It was more so like, hey, what charities do you work with? Hey, what are, you know, How can we donate a sign, whatever it may be? Whereas over the last year, I really noticed we're having the conversation saying like, what are the values? How can we help with those values? How can we make a positive impact on the community? So I think that's something that I'm seeing companies taking more vocal stances on things. And then again, working with us to kind of take those stances. And again, how do we not just partner together, be like, hey, here's a fundraiser, but how do we actually plan activations? How do we plan things in the community? So we can not just say, hey, we support these initiatives, but like, let's actually get out there and do the things and kind of, stand behind what we're saying we believe in.
I think a really big trend that we're seeing just, with events going away in the past year in the traditional sense has been really pivoting to have virtual platforms where your sponsors can be represented. I know for this past CFP, we actually built out a whole virtual world. It was a virtual fan fest where all of our CFP officials had virtual activations. For X Games, we built out a virtual X Fest where, all the X Games sponsors were represented. There was prizing, there was, like exclusive content. And what we're really seeing is that there's equal, if not greater value in those virtual worlds. Because, not everyone can travel to X Games or not everyone can travel to CFP and experience things on site. So if it can bring it to everyone at home, that only creates greater value for our sponsors. And I think going forward, there's definitely going to be a shift in kind of hybrid events where it'll be, part on-site activations, but also still have that virtual component where we can continue to bring sponsored content or sponsored activations to those that aren't physically on site.
Yeah, I don't mean to harp and kind of copy everyone else's point, but the emphasis on digital, right? I felt like everyone before COVID kind of saw it coming, and with COVID, it's kind of accelerated the process even more. Gone are the days now where companies are happy with just seeing their logo at the stadium or the arena. They're getting a lot smarter in the sense that they hire agencies or they have ways of tracking the performance of everything that we do sell, to the point where they're really tracking and seeing if they are getting value and if they are getting their return on investment. Any trends and advice, again, kind of harping on the point of analytics. Numbers are everything these days, and trying to tell a story. Again, it's just not just brand awareness these days. You have to give concrete numbers as to how you can tell the best story with a partner based off of how many impressions you're going to give them, how many engagements you're going to give them. So just being a little more analytical focused. And then again, we brought up the point of NFTs, cryptocurrency, different categories like that. But being aware of all the different social platforms as well. Obviously the obvious one is TikTok, that's blown up within the last couple of years. If you want to touch the younger demographic, the Gen Z demographic, you got to get well versed in the TikTok world, which I think 3 years ago we would have never said that kind of thing. So again, things are changing digitally every single day, and it's kind of up to us to keep up with the times to make sure we bring the most value we can to our organizations.
Great. Well, I think that's all we have. I really appreciate everyone's time today. I think the rest of our sport management students and future sport management students are really going to benefit from all the advice tonight. So I really appreciate the time. And with March Madness coming up, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Thanks, guys. Go Bucks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.